I do this late night radio show, but sometimes I stand in during the day for one of the most foaming at the mouth right-wing Sun columnists in the land, John Gaunt. So I inherit his audience for the day. You talk about a sticky wicket. And I stand there, and I literally stand for 3 hours defending black people, Muslim people, now Polish people, Slovakian people, Eastern European people. It's the same stories. When my grandparents came to Scotland from Ireland in their bare feet on a cattle boat to Glasgow and walking in their bare feet 80 miles to Dundee to work in the jute factories from 6 in the morning till 6 at night for 10 and 9pence a week. Everywhere there were notices saying, no dogs, no Irish. And then the story was, the Irish are undercutting the wages of the indigenous people, and they're all living 10 to a room. So we were, but we were all in the same family at least. Now, having passed through a period when it was black people that were living 10 to a room, according to the barroom bigots, having passed through a period when it used to be said, forgive me, on this wonderful restaurant, isn't it funny there's no cats or dogs around these Indian restaurants? They're probably all in the curry. The same kind of racist filth is now rolled out against Polish people and others from Central and Eastern Europe, who've come here for the same reason that my grandparents came, that black immigrants came, that Asian immigrants came, to work hard and make the life of their families better. That's what's ignoble about that. Why shouldn't we respect that and honour that? Especially as the harder people work in an economy, the bigger the economy becomes. And if we've got the right government, the more all of us can share in the increased wealth. Muslims in Britain are the new whipping boys. Stop and search operations up hundreds of %. There are Muslim young boys in this audience. I'll be astounded if one of them has not been stopped and searched in the last 12 months. And if they lived in Tower Hamlets, they would have been stopped and searched 10 times in the last 12 months. And that's before I mention the war. Not just the war that Michael talked about, the forgotten war in Afghanistan, the war they've declared over in Iraq. In fact, they were boasting on the news last week that the Iraqi death toll in October was only 1,000. The lowest figure this year, only 1,000 poor Iraqis were killed. Iraq has been broken into 100 pieces. Its people's hearts shattered. 4 million Iraqis living as refugees, begging on the streets of Jordan and Syria. 2 million Iraqis living with relatives in other parts of the country for fear of the sectarian murder squads out to get them. Water supply in Iraq today, 4 years after the war, is worse than it was at the height of the sanctions. Infant mortality, the death of young Iraqi children, is worse today than it was at the height of the sanctions, when an Iraqi child was dying every 6 minutes. Electricity supply, worse than it was. Unemployment, 80%. Fundamentalist fanaticism spreading everywhere. The secular character, the multi-religious, multi-ethnic character of Iraq shattered beyond repair. And if I had time, I'd go into the farce of our friends, the Kurds in Iraq, helping the Americans and the Turks to murder the Kurds from Turkey, the good Kurds and the bad Kurds, the good Kurds being on our side, the bad Kurds being against the Turkish oppression of Kurdish rights. But I don't have time. I want to spend just the last few minutes on this. Whatever happens within parties, whatever happens within respect, in one area, hopefully more than one, we will always be one hand. And that is in facing not just the wars that are already raging, but the war these maniacs are planning to launch in the next few months. They intend to blizzard high explosives, cruise missiles, high velocity weaponry from land, sea and air on yet another Muslim country in the Islamic Republic of Iran. They imagine that they can do so without reply. But Iran is not a broken-backed country, weakened by 20 years of war and sanctions. Iran is a strong, rich, powerful, populous country where 70% of the people are under 30 years of age. Iran will answer any attack. It will answer it there, here, and everywhere. And it will answer it forevermore. It will be the biggest mistake ever made in world politics if Bush and Brown and the Israeli leadership launch an attack upon Iran. Hear me, I know what I'm talking about. This will open the gates of hell and will consume a whole generation of people all over the world in new bitterness and hatred, new war, new terror, new flames. It seems incredible to even have to say this, but Gordon Brown was invited at the press conference this month to agree with Jack Straw, the previous Foreign Secretary, that war on Iran was inconceivable, and he deliberately declined to do so. In fact, he said 2 days later in Parliament that no option can be taken off the table. We've been this way before. We've heard this propaganda that we're hearing about Iran before. Millions of us rallied, but we failed to stop the disaster in Iraq. The single, one, and only anti-war movement in Britain is doing everything that it can to try and stop our country being dragged into yet another disaster. And I hope that every one of you will be with us. Wassalamu alaikum. Thank you very much.